Welcome back for another video. I'm Eharbad, and in today's video, it is fusion time in 2.5 days? Obviously, before that, we have Clan v Clan, so we're going to expend all our resources in a PR CVC and then go straight into the fusion. Sounds about right, doesn't it? Nothing in here for it. Is there anything in the news? No, there's nothing in the news. So the only thing we have is that Fusion warm-up event. However, by the powers that be, we do know a little bit about the Fusion. So if we jump over here, it's Bambus Four-Leaf, the Panda. Obviously, Plarium are intending on rolling out Raid to China, so it makes sense. They're following the World of Warcraft, Mists of Pandera sort of premise. And they're bringing a panda to the game. I mean, everyone loves a panda, so I think I'll go for him, if nothing else than to continue to collect all of the animals in the Skinwalker faction. It's the Pokemon of factions, if you will. We'll come back and talk about the skills in just a minute. But if we jump back into the game and we have a look at the actual faction itself, in terms of legendary, we've actually had a fair number of recent fusions. We had Razelvarg, Loreka, obviously Sun Wukong's just been given to us for free as well. Nishak last year, Uko last year. So I feel like, and obviously Klipotek also is given for free, although it takes quite a long time to get that far in. I feel like the faction's pretty well covered these days. It was, years ago, one of the hardest factions to beat, so it definitely needed a bit of love, but it's pretty fleshed out now. I'd say overall the Epic's pretty strong, although predominantly it's the Voids that are actually good. The non-Voids mostly a bit disappointing, really. Horror Feast, Steel Skull and Fane aside, the rest are, pretty average. So if we quickly jump back in, if we have a look at the support side, magic support. Magic, there's 4 of them, kind of reasonably well distributed, probably a little bit more spirit, so yeah, either magic or force would make sense. And in terms of support, we've got 1 in Uko, 1 in Loreka. Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense. Yeah, I'd say it makes sense. Magic support seems logical. Can't really fault them on that one. Let's jump back over. Now, if we have a look at the actual champion, A1 is attacks one enemy with a good chance, 75% chance to place decreased speed for 2 turns. It does become an AoE if the target is under 2 or more debuffs, which I'd say it's fairly easy to control, so I'd expect that to happen quite often. And to be honest, you can read these skills at your leisure. I won't bore you by talking through them in this graphic. Instead, we will jump over to my little graphic here, which I've been doing in these kind of fusion rating videos. So obviously, as I said, A1 single hit, 75% chance. On an AoE alternative, it's 65% AoE. Basically, it's a pretty interesting A1. I think getting 2 debuffs up is quite easy and should be an often AoE hit. Stun set for progression becomes possible. Curse set, provoke set for Hydra, also quite interesting possibilities. Decreased speed AoE is a good choice. At a good chance, it's a good skill. Like, that's as simple as that. The A2 is an AoE hit. We get a 30% HP shield, but it is on the target's HP levels, not on this champion's HP levels, which is a bit disappointing. I do think for legendary, I'd prefer to be able to control the size of the shield, and I don't think it's unreasonable to expect it to be the champion casting who is setting the size of the shield. That said, increased team buff duration by 1 turn is always a really good ability, highly sought after, can be very useful in many instances, and there still aren't that many champions that do it. Decrease enemy buff duration by 1 turn is also pretty good, but has quite niche use. I do think it's better than people give it credit for. Now, my big concern with this skill is that it's on a 4-turn cooldown. And I do worry about how usable it's going to be as a result. But we'll see. I think the best champions that do increase buff do it on a 3-turn cooldown. Obviously, we could put reflex set, but then you're losing that benefit of the A1 AoE. So I don't know. We'll see how it plays out in practice, but I am concerned that it's a 4-turn cooldown. On the A3, we got a single hit, which places Enfeeble. It's the first champion for us that places Enfeeble as a debuff. I don't really know what Enfeeble's going to do for us. I can't remember what it does in Shogun's Grove. So maybe if I'd gone and read up on that, I could give more insight. But it's always good to collect new debuffs and new buffs, because you never know when Plarium might throw out a new piece of content where it becomes relatively, if not mandatory, high value. And obviously we have this new big piece of PvE content upcoming. So, I think it's worth getting just to ensure you have coverage. Beyond that, we do have all ally increase accuracy and increase attack on a 2-turn buff duration, which is really pretty good. Obviously, we're going to increase that buff duration with the A2 straight after. So if you go A3 into A2 and then double AoE would probably be the standard rotation. It's not bad. That's all we can really say. I do worry about, or I do wonder rather than worry, the A2 AoE shield, which is 2 turns. Is that going to benefit from the increased buff duration? It depends on the sequence of the coding in that regard. If it does benefit and it becomes, effectively 3-turn duration for both the shield, increase accuracy, and increase attack, then that's pretty good. We also get an AoE decrease accuracy on this A3, which is actually also pretty strong for Hydra. It's a underrated ability. Also pretty useful in certain Doom Tower wave scenarios, for instance, when you're going up against Torment. So, there's interesting elements to the Champions kit. It's a unique kit. The passive being one of the most unique things of all. We have this chance to divert debuffs from our allies to ourselves, and then, assuming the sleep has not been removed, we have chance to transfer that to the highest resistant, the enemy with the highest resistance. Oh, that's a bit of a mouthful. It doesn't have a cooldown, or at least none is listed. I'm curious to see how it plays out. We can't transfer most crowd control abilities, but sleep isn't mentioned, so it's possible we could transfer polymorph back to the enemy. Now that could be quite unique thing to have in your kit, and it's quite an interesting one. So I'd like to see how that plays out. And then on the aura side, 25% HP all battles. It's okay. There's bigger HP auras out there. Typically, the legendary ones give you a bit more than 25%. That's like an epic standard aura in a legendary's body. So, it is what it is. Overall, like I said, it's a unique champion with a skill set that looks potentially huge for many of people progressing through Hydra. Not going to be necessarily a candidate for nightmare quality Hydra teams. But a lot of people, they're not doing these endgame Nightmare Hydra teams. So, for my challenge account, this champion's massive for progression in Hydra, like AoE decrease speed, AoE decrease accuracy, and giving me increased accuracy and increased attack. It's great. I think this champion looks really strong for a progression account in Hydra. Right, if we jump over to the area ratings, this is another thing I typically try and do in these Fusion rating videos. And you can see I'm not really rating the champion that strong in general. So the wild card is what future content is coming, and will this champion be OP there? And we don't know. I would say Hydra, Doom Tower, and Faction Wars, there's clear use cases for the champion. Particularly in Hydra, bringing that decrease speed is one of the most mandatory debuffs there is for Hydra. We also got useful buffs, useful debuffs, plenty of AoE potential. I'm concerned about the cooldowns, however, and that's why I didn't go for an A rating. But maybe I'm being a little bit harsh there. We'll see how it plays out. Maybe it should be more an A-. I don't know. We'll see. Doom Tower, again, like a solid champion, brings some useful utility for Doom Tower waves, particularly the increase-decrease accuracy part of things. I could see the champion being an option for progression in some hard Doom Tower floors, as well as certain bosses. Really, Frostspider's the one that springs to mind. Faction Wars, similarly, big support champion with a lot of buff, debuff coverage, potential for stun sets. But it's a problem for stage 21 because that boss does buff debuff exchange. I mean, yeah, I don't know whether you can use decrease accuracy on that boss to resist the debuff buff exchange. That part I'm not 100% sure, and it depends on the sequence of the coding. But because this champion's not giving us increased resistance, for instance, you'd still need to build a full res team to be able to resist the boss's exchange. Like I said, I think I'm going to rate him only as a B+ for Faction Wars because I don't think he's stage 21 viable, really. Arena, again, I mean, the ranges of ratings for Arena is quite broad because it does kind of depend how the sleep passive works out in practice. I see potential for the champion to be really annoying, a bit like Uko was, but instead of stealing buffs, we'll be redirecting debuffs. Now, the problem is, like I said, it does depend whether that includes sheep, and with sheep being used, reducing the amount of debuffers being used, is it even a relevant mechanic? I don't know. Like, that's why I think Arena's a bit of a subjective area. In terms of twins, a little bit of use case there with decreased speed, and the increased decrease accuracy has some potential, but beyond that, not really bringing anything. Clan boss, I just don't see how it's gonna. I don't see how this champion works in clan boss, really. We'll see. I mean, it's possible someone will find a speed tune that's really useful. Like I said, that whole 4-turn cooldown on the buff extension, I think, is a bit of a problem. Not sure. I don't see it working really in clan boss. Dungeons, there's no dungeon that needs this champion. Debuff transfer, I said, might work against Hard Dragon, but actually, on reflection, I don't think it will. Sand Devil doesn't bring anything. Shogun, who cares? I mean, that's kind of it, really. Overall, I'm giving the champion a B. I would like to be proven wrong that the champion's better. I think the only reason to really get the champion is Enfeeble. And we just don't know. We don't really know how critical Enfeeble is going to be in the future. We don't quite know how this whole sleep passive is going to work out. It might be stronger in practice than it reads. But I wouldn't get super excited about the fusion. But I also wouldn't discount the fusion. I think it's one of those ones that we'll probably have to just get anyway to avoid regret. I hope this helps. Look, it's a bit of a meandering video. I kind of rushed to put it together. I actually made a couple of errors when I first put the graphics together. Didn't realize how the sleep was cleansed off himself. Who knows? Like, I would like to see some play tests. I'd like to see some test server kind of action on this champion. I think it's quite hard to judge purely on the skill set written alone. But we'll see, right? I don't know. I can't really say much more than that. I don't think it's a game changer, but I do think the champion is quite interesting. I hope that helps. That's all I can say. Right, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.